license it.
Voices amongst the static. A glitch in the simulation. A broadcast with no origin. You have found the Phenomenauts podcast. Hello, you atomic masses of electrified meat. You have tuned into the Phenomenauts podcast, where we look at the weird, wonderful, and mysterious happenstances of this and occasionally other universes. Your hosts on this wild ride are myself, Dee, the amazing Amber.
Hello there.
And our new guest host, Oscar.
Hello.
Don't forget, we're everywhere, in the walls, ceilings, under the bed, Spotify, iTunes, YouTube, and Transistor, so please give us a like, follow, share, comment, download, whatever floats your boat. We just love hearing from you fine folks. So, we're back.
We're back.
Yeah, and we're having a slight rejig, as us hosts have a bit more time, and we shall be gracing your ear holes every other week, or at least we're going to aim to. And if you really miss the sounds of our voices, well, specifically the three of us, you can actually catch us on the weeks when we're not doing this, doing the Trialogue podcast. Links will be in the description, but can be easily found on Spotify, iTunes, and Transistor. And like I said, those episodes go up on the weeks where we don't do this.
Yeah.
So and
the we has changed as well. Since, it was me and Dee last season or whatever you want to call it. But yeah, we've brought in Oscar, long-time friend and confidant, Oscar.
I've crept my way in.
That's it.
I'm here now.
He's going to take my job next.
And I suppose the last thing for me to mention in our little intro is that we're sorry we're not doing this on video. I know a lot of folks normally like to watch us on YouTube, but given the lockdown status, that's just currently not possible.
Yeah.
But
you got to do what you can, You got to do the best with what you got.
Well, it also means Oscar gets to join us in a fashion that isn't, limited in any way, which I think is nice.
Thanks, technology.
For all they know, I'm just a disembodied voice.
You're an AI that we created. Who knows?
That's it.
So, shameless self-plugs out of the way, because there was enough of those. How's everybody doing this fine quarantine?
Yeah, doing okay. I've had the last couple of days involved in looking after my cats who've had to be moved out of the only home they've ever known. And you know what? They're settling in quite nice here at the new place, so that's nice.
Tiny precious babies.
Yeah, they're in the room with me, so if there's any meowing on the stream, you can...
I'm fine with this.
You can basically
Extra
this
guests.
Is pinnacle content. It's not the first time we've had a cat guest on the show as well.
That's true, we had Luna on one week, didn't we?
We did have Luna.
No video this time, unfortunately, but hey, there it goes.
What good cats. All cats are good cats.
Yeah.
Oscar, how are you doing?
Oh, I'm great. I've spent this morning picking lettuce for today's salad.
That sounds...
Yeah, at my house we've got an abundance of lettuce. We planted way too much, so it's salad every day.
That's it. 5
sounds
salads
both
a day.
Cute and slightly hellish at the same time.
Well, you know what? I'm making the most of it. We mix it up. We've got croutons, we've got peppers, cucumbers, tomatoes, anything really to just put amongst the leaves, but it's the leaves we need to get rid of, all the lettuce.
Fantastic. How about yourself, Dee? How have you been?
Oh, just adapting since the move. I have a new flat audience. It's lovely. I live on my own now, which is interesting. I would say, no one come and rob me or mug me, but I mean, I've given you no information as to where I live, so we're good.
I know where you live.
Yeah, you do, but I mean, you're going to come record here eventually when this lockdown's over, so...
Yeah, I'm going to steal stuff as well.
Yeah, but I know where you live. In fact, you're moving to round the corner from me.
Try it, Dee. You won't steal anything from me. I'll steal it back.
You're right. If I saw you taking my stuff, I'd probably just cry a little bit. Just be like, Amber, please don't do that. That's really not nice of you.
Criminal.
Yeah. All right. So diving right into the bulk of the show, as it were. So, as usual, we're going to talk about some weird and or cool stuff. Who's going first? Or do we want me to spin the wheel?
Oh, you know I want you to spin the wheel.
Oscar, do you want to spin the wheel?
Does it make a clicking sound as it goes, or do we have to add that in?
I won't know until I click it, and the audience won't be able to hear that. Neither will you two. But I'm sure Amber can edit one in.
Yeah, let's do it.
Can you just make one with your mouth? You
No,
know.
I can't.
Okay, I'll just pretend. I'll close my eyes.
Okay.
Brilliant. All right, I'm clicking the button. Oh, it does make a clicking sound.
Ooh.
At home, if you can hear that, I haven't edited anything in. That's in your mind. That.
Okay, I guess I'm up first.
Oh, yay!
Ooh.
Well, I wasn't expecting that. I'll be completely honest. It's a bit of a chonker, so I'll aim to be swift but thorough. But I'm going to open us up with something a little spooky.
Ooh, lovely.
Ooh.
Might even just shimmy a little bit closer to my microphone. Ow. Why am I like this? So, in keeping with what I normally talk about on the show, I've gone for something a bit more mysterious and perhaps in some ways fictional that we can cross-analyse at the end.
Okay.
So is everyone sitting comfortably?
Snug as a bug.
Brilliant. Thank you for some feedback there, Oscar. I was very worried. So, both heard of Napoleon, right?
Who's that?
Oh, yeah.
Isn't he that man from Al-Qaeda?
No.
Okay, different Napoleon then. Carry on.
Napoleon Dynamite?
Napoleon Bone Party.
Ah,
correct.
Bone Party.
Napoleon Bonaparte. So, has anyone heard of the tales of Napoleon and the Little Red Man of Destiny?
No. What?
Right? Strange, right? That doesn't sound like something historical. That sounds very ominous, right?
Yeah, like he's got a little gremlin living under his bed or something.
Well, I'll dive right in. From what I could glean from various sources, Napoleon was, in a way, superstitious. Perhaps not, devoutly so. But he was raised in a place called Corsica, which is known for its oral traditions like storytelling, specifically telling stories about witches, devils, and goblins and things like that. And another part of the culture is superstition. And in fact, there's some very interesting myths and legends that are Corsican that I'd love to revisit at some point, just because I found it very interesting while I was reading.
Yeah.
But getting back on track, Napoleon was credited with some, we'll say, more fantastical beliefs, and was said to follow some superstitions. He believed himself to be guided by a lucky star, and in fact, in 1806, after the siege of Danzig, a General Rapp entered Napoleon's office, finding him so absorbed he didn't even notice the general until he made a noise. Apparently, he then grabbed the general's arm before saying, "Do you see up there? That is my star. There it is, shining before you. It has never left me. I see it in all great moments. It commands me to go forward, and that is always a sign of good luck for me."
Okay. Oh,
So,
this sounds fair so far.
So he also believed in some omens. A good example being the small picture he carried of his wife at the time during his campaign of Italy. The glass broke, and he supposedly turned pale with dread and said either my wife is very ill or she is unfaithful. Interestingly enough, his wife was unfaithful, but so was he. In fact, I'm not sure who was first, but neither of them are in the right.
Right.
According to one of his valets, and I'm going to do my best to pronounce this, Louis Etienne Saint Denis, towards the last fortnight of Napoleon's life, a little comet was seen in the west, almost imperceptible. It was said that it had a very long tail. As for me, I saw nothing of the comet or its tail. It was visible about 7 or 8 o'clock, and appeared upon the horizon when the emperor heard of this apparition. He said, "It comes to mark the end of my career." Just, I thought it was interesting to hear about, 2 instances where there was a comet or a star or some sort of astrological body, I guess might be the correct word.
Yeah.
He was also apparently known for hating the number 13, avoiding beginning journeys on the date. He also regarded some dates as lucky, like December the 2nd, which was the date of his coronation. But what does any of this have to do with a red man? Well, to be honest, it doesn't. But it does give you an insight into his beliefs and in concepts like luck and omens and the superstitious. The fact that someone in such a position of power would still believe in what, a lot of people consider superstition today to be, fairy tale and novel and not actually real.
Yeah.
But right before I get into the juicy bits, I just thought I'd ask very quickly, what you two are thinking thus far? Because, to be honest, I always thought it sounds like he believed in, a fate, perhaps, reading omens and thinking that it was indicative of a specific future, or that, perhaps finding meaning in things that typically didn't, or prescribing meaning.
I mean, I've got this feeling that, someone who's so successful, they certainly believe in themselves to be so, sort of dogged in their pursuit of greatness. So I guess in that way, if they just believe that it's fated that they should be this great leader or something, possibly that's going to push them to be a great leader. And the fact that he was, so great and he achieved so much, is probably just, luck in some ways that he wasn't just shot at some point or, fell down the stairs. But you get what I mean? Like people who went, I'm great, it's the start, it means that I'm going to be the king of the world, and then they just get shot in a battle. You don't hear about them. But in this sense, it seems weird that he would go, a guiding star. But, I think it's fair to have beliefs like that, especially during the times, maybe.
Oscar, have you got any thoughts?
With his sort of astronomical beliefs, the whole meteor, it could have just been a coincidence, but at the same time, the fact that he said, this is it, I've seen that meteor, that means I'm done. And earlier on, he's thinking, you know what, this is how I'm going to get things done. That star's telling me to do it. I couldn't say. I wonder if we could track down astronomically what those bodies would have been.
I would like to do a bit more further research into it at some point. There isn't a ton of specifics, and finding, validatable sources is a bit more tricky, but I'm sure it could be done.
But I'm dying to hear how a little red man comes into this.
Well, Napoleon liked to interpret his dreams, and liked to tell them as ghost stories. So that was just seemingly a hobby of his, and apparently he believed in a little red man of destiny who foretold his future. And he let this little red man inform a lot of the decisions he made, in fact.
Go on, little red man. What do I do? Is he little in the sense that, he's a tiny little person, like an action man? Or is he just, like, really short and stubby? Or, like...
Well, from a lot of, like, sort of propaganda-style drawings, sometimes it looks like, your traditional small little red devil. From other, artistic interpretations, it was not a small person, but just rather a small man. Just
a short guy.
Yeah, just short.
Okay.
But, it's very, very much up for interpretation, I feel. And the thing with the Red Man is, supposedly, he followed Napoleon through all of his campaigns, apparently foretelling of future events, perhaps acting a bit like some sort of consult.
So bizarre.
One legend tells it that the Red Man's first appearance happened for the first time in Egypt in 1798, telling Napoleon that he had 10 years to enjoy victory and triumph on the European battlefield.
Yikes.
Other legends tell that the Red Man acted like some kind of reconnaissance, telling him that the French fleet had disobeyed his orders and that the Egyptian campaign would fail. Foretelling that he would return to France and find England, Russia, Turkey, and an allied Europe. Remember how I mentioned that star earlier?
Mm-hmm.
Well, another source describes the tale slightly differently, and that when General Rapp went into Napoleon's quarters unannounced, when trying to get Napoleon's attention by moving a chair to make a noise, Napoleon stood unmoving, making the general fear that the leader had fallen into a stupor of some sort. But when Napoleon grabbed Rapp's arm, he asked him if he saw the red star of destiny, almost as large as the moon and brilliant.
Oh my gosh.
Oh dear.
Now, when you hear that version, like, it almost correlates a little more, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Like, you know, maybe it's just the addition of it being red, but something for me, it was something in the way it was written.
Yeah.
Something about its brilliance, almost like he was heralding it, I guess would be a word, perhaps.
I just don't like this idea of like a dark star that's like raptured a human and he's like, here it comes, the destiny.
Well, Napoleon's Councillor of State, Louis Mathieu Count Mole, reported hearing the Little Red Man of Destiny in 1809, warning Napoleon of the future and that he shouldn't conduct his Russian campaign, and cautioned that his victory days were soon to be over unless he negotiated peace. It's worth noting that this was 11 years since the Egyptian encounter where the Red Man prophesied 10 years of triumph. And in June 1812, after invading Russia, by the summer the French army had shrunk by 2/3 to fatigue, hunger, desertion, and Russian raiding.
Oh, why didn't he listen to the Little Red Man?
From what I could garner, it sounded like Napoleon didn't like these firm bets and was almost perhaps deluded by his own prowess maybe. I think he genuinely thought he could, I guess, deny fate, not to sound too poetic or metaphorical in any way.
Yeah.
Don't personally buy into fate myself, but I think
he
that
seems
was
like the kind of guy who would go, fates be damned.
Oh, hubris. But yeah, the Russian campaign was a failure, and this ensured Russia's rise of power and later his downfall. So in 1814, Napoleon had sought seclusion in his study in the Fontainebleau Palace. The testimony of Councillor Mole and guard Basile de Minge signed an official document attesting to the truth of a conversation they had overheard. Supposedly, the Red Man had appeared to warn Napoleon that he had 3 months left in power, and that his allies would invade Paris should Napoleon not heed his advice and pursue peace. Should he not, he would be confined to a small island of the sea. Napoleon argued back that he couldn't conquer the Allies or make peace on honourable terms in 3 months. True enough, 3 months later the Allied army arrived in Paris and the Senate called for his abdication, to which he did, and was granted the sovereignty of the island of Elba, to which he would later escape for his 100-day rule, only to be defeated and exiled once again to the remote island of St. Helena.
Damn, you just can't catch a break.
No. Well, he had a good stretch of 10 years.
That's true.
So here's, the reason I kind of went through that was because I kind of, did my best to sort of check things. And if that prophecy happened, it was kind of right. In fact, pretty much all of them to this point have been right in a little bit of way, in some way.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was quite interesting. Now, that account I've just given you from Councillor Mole and the guard.
Sure.
I actually have the same tale from another source.
Oh.
But it doesn't quite align the same, interestingly enough.
Interesting.
So, now just don't forget the importance of what I'm... So this statement was from the councillor himself. Now, just remember in the last one how I mentioned that they both signed an official document to attest to the truth of their statements.
Sure.
Which I think is quite relevant. So, the following story was circulated almost immediately after the fall of Napoleon, and with the credulous obtained ready belief. The gentleman from whom this curious communication was received heard it related with the following particulars. On the 1st of January at Paris, where he spent the whole of the winter. The 1st of January 1814, early in the morning, Napoleon shut himself in his cabinet, bidding Count Mole, the then Chancellor of the State, to remain in the next room and to hinder any person from troubling him while he was occupied in his cabinet. He had not long retired to his study when a tall man, dressed all in red, applied to Mole. Pretending that he wanted to speak to the Emperor, he was answered that it was not possible. To which he then said, "I must speak to him. Go and tell him it is the Red Man who wants him, and he will admit me.
Oh.
Awed by the imperious and commanding tone of that strange personage, Mole obeyed reluctantly and trembling. Executed his dangerous errand, and let him in, said Bonaparte sternly. Prompted by curiosity, Mole listened at the door and overheard the following curious conversation. The Red Man said, "This is my third appearance before you. The first time we met was in Egypt at the Battle of the Pyramids. The second, after the Battle of Wagram. I then granted you 4 years more to terminate the conquest of Europe, or to make a general peace, threatening you that if you did not perform one of these two things, I would withdraw my protection from you. Now I am come, for the third and last time, to warn you that you have now but 3 months to complete the execution of your designs, or to comply with the proposals of peace offered you by the Allies. If you do not achieve the one or accede the other, all will be over with you. So remember it well." Napoleon then expostulated with him to obtain more time, on the plea that it was impossible in so short a space to reconquer what he had lost, or to make peace on honourable terms. "Do as you please," said the Red Man, "but my resolution is not to be shaken by entreaties nor otherwise, and I go." He opened the door. The Emperor followed, entreating him, but to no purpose. The Red Man would not stop any longer. He went away, casting on his Imperial Majesty a contemptuous look, and repeating in a stern voice, 3 months, no longer. Napoleon made no reply, but his fiery eyes darted fury, and then returned sullenly into his cabinet, which he did not leave for the whole day. Such were the reports that were spread in Paris 3 months before the fall of Napoleon Bonaparte, where they caused an unusual sensation and created a superstitious belief amongst the people that he had dealings with infernal spirits and was bound to fulfill their will or perish.
This is crazy. This is wild.
Absolutely wild, right?
What's this red guy's angle?
Who is this red guy?
Is he, a cult? Is it a small devil? Or perhaps is it alien in nature?
I don't know, but I really liked that account.
Yeah, why is he getting Napoleon?
The source I pulled that from was very... Now, I'll save that for the cross-analysis, actually.
Okay.
Before I do go into the analysis, what are people thinking?
Just, what? Why was the Red Man doing this in the first place? Like, why did... Like, the fact that if he was like, take over the world, I'd understand it, but he was like, take over the world, actually, sue for peace, and I'm like, what's your angle, little man?
Interesting, though, isn't it?
It sounds almost as if Napoleon has asked for this to happen. He sort of said, right, I want 10 years, take over the world, I can do it, just give me the right look. And he said, okay, 10 years. And then he's come back later on, he said, oh, can I get an extension? For 4 more, please? 4 more years? And at the very end, just like every student I know, just wishing for more time.
I knew you were going to make a joke like that. Yeah. So, the first thing that I feel it's my duty to inform you is that I actually couldn't find many reputable sources on this, understandably so. It's an irritating commonality among anything remotely supernatural is that it just becomes harder for me to find reputable sources.
Yeah. It's kind of like when you Google something, you get what you're looking for. So if you Google Little Red Man, Devil, Napoleon, you will get information that tells you that it's all legit, but no sources, or I don't know.
Tried to cross-check what I could. And a lot of the, like I said, the prophetic stuff does correlate with things that happened and was either on time or very, very close to being on time, if that makes sense. Personally, I'm chalking a lot of it up to urban legend. But one thing I find peculiar about it is that if it is a legend, why are a lot of the sources saying exactly the same thing?
It was a long time ago.
Well, that's true. That's very true.
Word gets around. People go, oh, yeah, did you hear about the Red Man? And they go, yeah, I think maybe he did say Red Man, didn't he, when I was listening? I don't know.
Well, one source did mention that his campaigns were so successful, and in fact he was so successful, that it was quite likely that, people would chalk things up to supernatural interference just because it was so beyond, one person doing so much and, I suppose, having the amount of success to him, his version of success, but having to be that successful in one lifetime to win so many battles, I could see how someone at the time would chalk it up to some sort of supernatural interference.
Yeah.
Because also bear in mind, you've got instances of propaganda around the time. People want to slam Napoleon politically. People want to make him out to be a superstitious nut job.
Yeah, like how they made everyone think that he was short when he actually wasn't short.
So
what
now,
interests sorry.
What
interests me is the fact that at first, obviously, he was seeing things in his dreams, apparently, but this little red man actually turns up. Like somebody says they've seen him.
I was gonna go there. Yeah, it's one thing that didn't seem super consistent throughout, but I'm like, if you've got this instance of the red man appearing, but then you've got instances of him talking about the red man. Very, very strange. I suppose sorry, I completely lost my train of thought. It's a very strange set of circumstances. Obviously, it's so hard to verify it, but Napoleon was very... I don't know how to put it, but strange. Perhaps he wasn't for the time. Perhaps it's just because I've looked at the life of a man who lived several hundred years ago, and it's just very different from what we would consider normal now, and that's why it leaves that sort of mark on me. But I don't know. Just a lot of it, as I'm reading it, is very strange. Did you know he made a talisman?
He made one.
Yeah, it's a story for another episode, but he made a talisman. Now, anyone can make jewelry. Maybe not anyone can make jewelry. No, anyone can make jewelry. But the fact that the word talisman is used, I always think the word talisman, almost betrays some sort of esoteric quality to it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, a talisman is supposed to have a purpose as a supernatural object.
But again, that could just be modern media and things like that. Weirdly, though, the Red Man is actually has been reported several times. A French ghost, if you will, and is said to have appeared before multiple monarchs and leaders at crucial moments, but often right just before something horrible occurs.
Oh.
Now that I thought added an extra layer to the narrative, if you would.
So is this a worldwide thing? Is it all different leaders who've seen him?
I don't think it's worldwide. I think it is specifically French, monarchs and leaders.
I'm going to call bull on it then. I would have loved it if you said it actually crops up all over history. I'd be like, what?
No, you'd be like, what the hell? How the hell does that? Yeah. But, unfortunately, I haven't seen anything that links it to anything else yet.
Yeah, it's like, if in France they've got the red man, and in England we've got the grey lady.
I was going to say we've got the white or the grey lady. Yeah. And it did, funnily enough, reading the sort of encounters with the red man did sound very similar to our equivalent of the grey lady.
A portend.
Yeah. Now, I thought a good way to tie off this, little chat, if I may, was a quote from his secretary, Baron Meneville. Like all superior geniuses, he had faith in his destiny, his successes, from the very outset of his career, followed by a still greater and even unexpected success. He had inspired... I'm just going to read that again. His successes from the very outset of his career, followed by still greater and even unexpected successes, had inspired him with the idea that he was called to play a part on the world's stage. But what is the superstition which is attributed to great men? Is it belief in occult and undefined powers? Is it, on the contrary, the faith which they have in themselves, or in an intuitive perception of their own value? that inner feeling which led Napoleon, for example, to consider himself a divine instrument charged with a mission on earth and fated to march onward without fear and with the certainty of success, under its powerful protection. When Napoleon used to say that the cannonball that was to kill him had not yet been cast, he did not yield to a feeling of fatalism. He considered that his providential mission had not yet been fulfilled.
Yeah.
So, similar vein to what you said before.
Self-assuredness, like if you're so certain that you aren't going to die in this battle, you'll charge in headlong. And I think that's what other people might be lacking, and that's why you're able to perform so well.
Ooh, it makes me think that perhaps that's why so many people attribute it to, you know, it being a bit more of a sort of an arcane occurrence. If someone's so sure of themselves, I've seen it happen, still today. If someone's very sure in themselves, other people immediately sometimes start to doubt that.
Yeah.
Like, where could that conviction be coming from? How could you be that sure? I could very easily see how that very quickly could become something like, oh, nah, he's got visions of the future, or, this strange ethereal being keeps coming and telling him what's going to happen.
Yeah, especially when the people who you're going to compare Napoleon to are the people who he, is at odds with, like, other world leaders, and if they seem to have these doubts and they're careful and they lose and he doesn't, you'd go, well, what's he doing that's different? Why is he so certain? He's got a red man in his pocket.
But that was my this week's entry. This was I still can't speak. Sorry, Amber. I've probably just made editing really hard.
It'll be fun.
But yeah, that was my little bit on Napoleon. I hope you enjoyed, and I don't know which one of you would like to go next, or we can spin the wheel.
I'll definitely spin the wheel.
Go for it.
Okay, I'll just spin the thing.
Again, if you're hearing this at home, it's all in your head.
It's Amber.
Oh, yay! I love talking. Well, I mean, as per usual, I'm going a little bit more sciencey, and a bit cerebral. Dee, I know you love the future tech. Oscar,
I do love future tech.
Mm-hmm. We have had conversations about, what's your favourite future tech and all that sort of stuff. So this one is probably going to tickle your fancy. So a team from Kyoto University in Japan have used machine learning to reconstruct images from people's memories.
Ooh.
It's just such a big sentence.
That is very cool.
Yeah. So it's actually from last year. So the 2019 paper, which we'll have a link somewhere, is called Deep Image Reconstruction from Human Brain Activity. It's by Shen et al. Just a footnote here as well. My phone tried to autocorrect Shen et al. To when at am. So, machines, they're smart, but they're also dumb. Anyway, machines are so smart.
Just like that tidbit. Machines are so smart, also they're so dumb, but they're so smart.
Like, in trying to type out machines are so smart, it tries to correct me to something different. I'm like, nice one. So the researchers showed the participants images such as a postbox, an owl's face, a stained glass window, aeroplane, etc., etc. As you do, invite some friends around, some dinner, some wine, some fun, fine music, and then, when everyone's suitably mellow, bam, show them a picture of an owl's face. They showed them the pictures for a few seconds and then asked them to remember the picture that they'd been shown. This was all done while they were inside an fMRI machine. And the signals recorded from the participants as they recalled the postbox or the aeroplane were fed into the machine learning thing, and it was able to decode the signal patterns into images, digital images.
That is wild.
It's crazy. It's sad as well, because if we were on video, I could show you some of these amazing pictures, because they're really sort of ethereal looking, weird ghostly images. But yeah, Shen et al. There should be a link somewhere to the study. But what I wanted to touch on quickly, because I think it gets thrown around a lot recently, and I'm not that well up on the knowledge, but machine learning, what exactly do we mean by that? Dee, I understand you might have a bit more information on this.
Okay. Oh dear, I feel like you mentioned this to me, and I probably should have prepared something. Okay, so machine learning. Basically, I'm just going to do a really brief rundown, like
just keep
super
it brief,
skim
it's fine.
over it. So you know how like we have a brain and we do trial and error, and that's kind of how we learn. That's like I would call that the baseline for most of the ways we learn things. You know, unless we're being taught by someone. But a lot of the time, trial and error.
Yeah.
Machine learning is kind of the same thing. Like, we essentially tell a computer to do a task, a very complex computer with a lot of data fed into it. So, you know, you might. A good example of machine learning is if you feed in 100 images of people into it, and you know, you feed in hundreds of data sets and you give it a nice diverse set, so you know, so it can identify, you know, people. And you also set in it a good range of, you know, we'll go with facial expressions. So, you know, this machine now knows how to identify photographs of people and emotional responses.
Yeah.
Now it has that data set, it can essentially read those images.
Okay. So it can see the pattern in the images you've shown it, and then it can look for that pattern elsewhere in new images.
Yes. So you could give it like an image of, I don't know, a town centre, and it could maybe then, using the data it has, it could identify the people within that image.
Yeah.
Because they have certain similarities to the images it already has. And it can then, if it can read their faces, read emotions. Or, you know, read whatever it has been programmed to understand as the emotion, is probably a better way to put it. Machine learning is when a machine can affect... So the idea I'm giving you is if you imagine a computer but with almost like a memory, less like a consciousness, but like a... You know how like when you open like Chrome on your computer and it takes up a bunch of RAM?
Yeah.
Like a big version of that. Like it's got a big amount of memory to recall from, in a way. Machine learning, if I'm getting this right, and I remember this very vaguely... It essentially will trial and error until it gets the result you've asked it to get.
Okay. So it kind of is like learning then.
Yeah, it's
watch,
strange because it's programmed.
I did watch quite an interesting video on the topic, which is basically so as I understood it, we teach it how to do stuff. But we only decide like the syllabus, like we only decide the questions that are being posed to the algorithm. The algorithms get changed randomly, little pieces of them swapped out and changed. So basically it just creates a whole host of slightly different algorithms, and then they do a test.
The way I look, another way of explaining it is you essentially give a, you know how like we write code for a computer and then it works off that code.
Mm-hmm.
An example of machine learning would be if it could understand that code, figure out a better way of, you know, writing itself. Maybe not something so meta, but you get the idea.
I guess
then
the issue is
have the ability to then change its own code to, you know, the better version.
I guess the problem is that using the word, it works out a way to do it better. And the thing is that So in these like sort of layers of trial and error to try and make the algorithm better, we just do random changes. We don't know how those changes are actually going to alter the function of the algorithm. All we know is who gets the highest score on the test.
The thing that makes it so unique, I guess, or the best way I could put it, is that it's automatic. Normally a computer doesn't just... normally a computer wouldn't just, you know, be able to come to a computer doesn't come to a conclusion.
You tell it you say, well done. That it just says things, and you go, oh, well, one of you got it right. Well done.
You know, machine learning enables a computer to then almost act on its result in a way.
Okay. Yeah, because we feed in pictures of faces into an algorithm over and over and over and over and over, and then it's like, oh wow, it can recognize someone's face in a photo like 99.9% of the time if they're in there. But then the difference between like a computer and a person is if someone's wearing glasses, the algorithm all of a sudden gets confused. It can't tell it doesn't see that as a face because it's not been trained with data that has people wearing glasses. So for a person, we could just go, oh, well, of course, they just got something on their face. But a machine learning algorithm would just go, Nope, no faces here.
Weirdly, essentially, it's very much like human learning. You teach a machine learning program to do something, and it does it.
Yeah.
It just doesn't need to be programmed to do the task.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. So you you rigorously have a training regimen that then gets the algorithm to be as good as you've been asking for. But you're the one who's telling which one of these is doing the good job.
So I've got a good example here. In image recognition, they might learn to identify images that contain cats by analysing example images that have been manually labelled as cat or no cat, using the results to identify cats in other images, because they can extract from both those images what makes up an image that doesn't have a cat and what makes up an image that does have a cat. Those sort of common factors that help, that we don't consciously do, but we actually, we do. We see a cat and we think cat. And effectively, they're kind of learning to do a very similar process. They do this without any prior knowledge of cats. For example, that they have fur, tails, whiskers, cat-like faces. Instead, they automatically generate identifying characteristics from the examples they possess.
Right, so similarities between them.
Yeah, they derive, in a way, you could say they derive their own meaning of the image or the concept.
So crazy. So that's what they mean by machine learning. Right, so we're taking a deep dive in there.
Sorry, apologies. I thought we should...
It's a good primer because people say machine learning a lot. Until recently, I didn't really know what that meant, actually. But, in this case, Shen et al. Managed to train an algorithm to look at people's brain activity while they were thinking of images that they'd shown them. So you show them a red post box, they think of the red post box, your brain fires in a certain way as it's retrieving that information, and you can see it in your mind's eye. So the algorithm knows what the image is that's supposed to have been seen, and then they correlate the brain patterns to kind of get patterns from the brain function, and then match it to patterns in the image. And then once they go, when someone thinks of red, this pattern emerges in the brain waves. So now we know that they're thinking of the colour red primarily. Oh, they're thinking of something that we have seen to equate to a square. So they're thinking of a red square. So it just kind of like picks patterns out of the brainwaves and then uses that to reconstruct the image. So absolutely like cutting edge stuff. This is really crazy. And I suppose as machine learning comes along, they're going to be able to do this even better. But yeah, the images are just so bizarre. They're just like dreamlike apparitions from within inside, a machine.
Oh, that sounds...
The ghost in the machine is crazy.
It's a shame we can't do images once again, because I've just found a very good diagram of an artificial neural network.
You'll have to just imagine it.
Well, I can describe it to, I think, a basic concept, if that will help at all. Or I can just edit this bit out, it's up to you.
Yeah, go for it.
I'm closing my eyes, Dee.
The easiest way to describe it is it's 3 dots in a line that are called input, then 4 dots in a line that are called hidden, and each node on input has a line drawn to all the points in hidden.
Okay.
And then you have 2 on the other side for output, and the arrows that go from hidden match output, if that makes sense.
Okay.
So you have your input, your process, and your output, but your output's more defined than your input.
Okay.
A lot of... It's a very... No, you could say that. A lot of machine learning stuff is inspired by, the human neural network.
Okay.
It's, I say human. Biological neural networks is better.
Yeah.
I know I'm reading one thing now that are vaguely inspired by the biological neural networks that constitute animal brains.
I like that. We're basically creating a synthetic brain.
Oh, yeah. Very quickly had to hop onto Wikipedia to check a few things.
No, it's all right. But I just wanted to as well, because I love brain facts, right? And I couldn't think where to drop this one in, so I had a talk with management, and they've given me the green light for an emergency trivia time.
I knew it was coming!
Okay, so it's completely unrelated, by the way. So an ant colony containing about 40,000 ants has about the same amount of neurons as in a person's brain.
Ooh. I could weirdly believe that.
Your brain has the same amount of neurons in it as an ant colony.
So what I'm to take from this is I'm as smart as many ants.
Well, you know that 1 million ants.
I was just, yeah.
To be as smart as a person, he'd only have to be 40,000 ants. But he'd be shorter, but he'd be as smart as you. So imagine if he was the same size as you. Crazy.
Dun, dun, dun.
But yeah, like it might seem like a lot, of neurons, sure. But when these neurons are networked together, their potential is revealed. In a single human brain, there are up to 200 billion neurons with 1 quadrillion synapses. So synapses being the connections between them. The amount of ways information can be exchanged within the brain is greater than the number of atoms in the entire universe.
Wow.
It's just ridiculous. When they say, what's the most complicated object in nature? It's the brain, by far. It can exchange information in more ways than there are atoms in the universe. It's crazy. If I laid...
All that from a lump of electrified meat.
I know, right? If I laid every neuron in your brain end to end, how far do you think it would go?
Oh, that's a big distance.
I'm going to guess to the moon and back.
To the moon and back?
That's a good one. The moon and back.
What about you, D?
Probably further, I'd guess. Maybe?
Any of the planets? Or maybe another solar system?
Maybe even out of this solar system. Screw it. I'll say you could probably stretch it to out of this solar system.
That's,
I guess.
I mean, it's sat in your skull. You think there's enough material in there to stretch out the solar system.
Well, isn't there enough material in your intestine or something to reach the moon?
Something to do with if you took off all your skin.
I think it's if you lay out your lungs, if you completely flatten your lungs, it would cover a tennis court.
Ooh.
Yeah. And it would really hurt as well. Okay, I'll put you out of your misery. The answer is, if I laid every neuron in your brain end to end, it would go to the moon and back 13 times. You have nearly 5 million kilometers of axons in your 1.6 kilogram brain.
Wow.
Crazy.
It can do all this, and yet it still can't produce the right amount of serotonin.
I know. Honestly, it beggars belief. Anyway, I think just this study speaks volumes about the potential applications of machine learning technology. This approach can identify patterns in data in ways that we don't know yet because normal methods won't find the same patterns. So we're finding things that we might not have been able to do previously. Like machine learning isn't just better, it's different. So it can do more.
Wild.
Yeah. But yeah, I like to imagine a world in the not too distant future where you can capture your dreams and analyze them to better your waking health. Like you get a machine algorithm, listens to your brain while you remember things, calibrates, and then you just go to bed and it just captures your dreams like a video. So like it picks up on triggers for anxiety, say, or, just by looking in your dreams, or it monitors the quality of your sleep. Yeah, so it's being interrupted at this point, so this is what happens, so this is how you get better sleep. Or you could just watch crazy dreams people have had. They upload them on YouTube, and you just go, oh, wow, look at that dream.
Oh, no. There'd be some horrifying stuff in there.
It'd be an excellent new media form.
Right?
It would be a good new... Yeah, dreamcasting would be cool as heck.
Because it's not just, here's a dream I had. People who lucid dream could take commissions.
Oscar, I really liked that term dreamcasting, by the way.
Dreamcasting. Love it.
Patented now. Going to have to quickly run that one to the office.
Wasn't that a console?
Dreamcast. Oh my god, yeah.
It was, yeah.
Well, it's like the PS1 era, right?
Sorry. There's going to be a huge lawsuit.
Oh no.
But yeah, just take commissions like Goku versus Superman. Sure, I'll dream about that for you. It's £100 a minute. Do you want anything in particular? Like Superman gets his shirt ripped off, or like they totally bang and every thrust destroys an entire city block? do you want Superman to have feet the size of sheds? Click here.
When you wake up and you just can't remember your dream, I think that'd be the most satisfying thing. And you're like, what was it? Put it on the TV.
Oh, we were in a courtyard. There was I think we were trying to get to a car. It's just so vague, and then you watch it and you go, oh, sweet, look at, oh, wow. I don't even remember that bit. I don't know how the editing would work because you just phase in between different locations, but I like the idea of like getting a commission. Like you go, oh, that new movie was great, but I wanted to see that it end differently. Let me just commission a lucid dreamer to just dream up a different version. So
I swear there's an episode of Steven Universe that follows that narrative.
Right. Say someone owes you a dream. What would you want someone to dream for you? So it could be something spectacular, like a meteor hitting the earth and just blowing it up, or like dinosaurs roaming your hometown, or a trip through a wormhole, or Superman with shed-sized feet. What would you want?
I'm wondering if somebody could have. I would like to see somebody try to have the most boring dream of all time, because I don't think it's possible. I think there'd be lucid dreaming, and they'd think, right, I need to sit on a chair and just do regular, normal day things. But I'm sure the brain in some way would start to change things without them.
Yeah. It would lash out.
That feels very real for some reason. Like I can totally imagine that. I think I'd probably
go on, D. Go on.
I was just saying. I think I'd probably be like, show me something that I would never have imagined.
Okay.
Ooh.
Like I want to see something so off the rails that I just physically could not have imagined that, or at least I couldn't imagine someone else's perception of it, for example. Because like I say, like, I don't know, what can I think of as an example? Elven forest,
right?
And we all think 3 different forests, right?
Yeah.
We may all have similar points of inspiration for those things, but we'll all be thinking of an entirely different type of forest.
Oh, you could have dream competitions.
Ooh,
that would be awesome. I think I would like a hollow earth where we live on the inside edge, and the
Dyson sphere,
and the outside is swarming with demons.
Ooh, that sounds like a good story.
I like it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought that was a fantastic study. I just get like the first sentence. Just they can decode your memories using machine learning. It's just
that's pretty wild,
astronomical.
That is very like
we're living in the
future tech. We are. The future is now.
Fantastic. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, that's all I got.
All right. So, who wants to go next, or do we want to spin the wheel again? I do believe the choices
spin the wheel and then ignore it if it doesn't say Oscar.
Okay, so the choices are Oscar, Oscar, and Oscar.
Let's spin the wheel.
So, red Oscar, blue Oscar, and yellow Oscar.
Fingers crossed.
Little red man.
It actually was red Oscar.
Oh, excellent. Okay. So I was trying to work out what I should bring to use today. Because there's all sorts of stuff out there, and I thought, I could do something sciencey. I could do something with a bit of mystery. And then upon my exploration, I came across a location called Lake Baikal in Russia. So it might not look that impressive on the surface because it's not the largest lake per se surface area, but it is the oldest, believed to be the oldest lake we know about at around 25 to 30 million years.
Nice.
So it's been there a long time. It's also the deepest lake that we know about because it's about 1,640 meters deep.
Oh, wow.
For a bit of context.
Wow.
For a bit of context, that's, I think I worked it out to be around 3 Empire State Buildings top to top. Or if you want it in Oscars, and I'm 1.75 meters tall, it would be around 930 meters.
I'm so happy you worked out that maths.
930 meters stood on each other's shoulders, and the top one would need a straw to breathe. So.
You better hope that you're the top one.
Fingers crossed. 1 in 930. It's not good odds.
Yeah.
So yeah, I started looking into this lake, thinking, "Wow, that's pretty impressive." Because it contains about over 20% of the world's surface fresh water. Because there's some hidden.
What?
But just in this lake, that's over 20% of the world's fresh water.
In one lake?
So, in one lake.
Damn.
It's like the number one lake for surface area, which I think was Lake Superior. It may have a larger surface area, but it actually contains less than half of this lake.
It's just like a big puddle.
Yeah. Where that one's quite wide. This one just keeps going down.
Can we have a petition to rename it Lake Inferior?
But yeah, it's just a really big hole in the ground full of water. But the more I looked into it, the more I delved deeper, the more I found out. So it actually at the bottom has thermal vents that you'd find them in the ocean, and it's believed to be the source of a lot of the world's life.
Wow.
So
I think
bacteria forming around the thermal vents at the ocean.
Yeah.
Well, this is like one of the only, I think it's the only lake that we've managed to find these in so far, and they're at the very bottom.
Yeah, because they're very, very deep, because it's like where lava's basically near the surface, isn't it?
I do think I remember reading or watching something that did mention, something similar about thermal vents, and they have the microbial life around them for the building blocks of later life, don't they?
Yeah, they think that it's might be one of the places where life began. It was either in the shallows where there was UV radiation going through warm, shallow water, or it was in these geothermal vents. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. Well, the reason it's so deep and voluminous is it's located between two tectonic plates.
Right.
So it's located between the Eurasian plate and the Amurian plate, which are two of the big plates that sort of connect Asia and Europe.
Okay.
Sorry to interrupt, just a quick one.
Go on.
Does that mean it sits on a fault line?
It does, and these two plates are actually still moving away from each other at a very slow rate.
That was going to be my next question.
So it's going to get deeper.
It gets wider each year by around 2 centimeters.
How long until this becomes a sea?
I know. Well, it's really far. I think it's over 1,000 kilometers to the nearest ocean, which brings me to my next mystery.
Oh.
Are you ready for this? So this is what I meant by it just keeps getting deeper. It hosts around 2,500 different species of animals and flora and fauna. 80% of these animals and plants and wildlife is endemic, which means you can only find it here in this location.
Love it.
So it's like its own unique little biosphere.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just got so much going on. A lot of different small bacteria have been found. It's quite a big research area. They've done lots of deep dives into it because of the vents at the bottom. Life actually exists lower down because of the heat.
Oh, so, yeah.
And this will be life that's not related to anything else on the planet as well. At the very bottom, they might not even know that life's been going on the surface. They just live at the bottom forever.
One of these species, which is endemic, lives only in this lake. Is called the Nerpa, which is a type of seal. It's the Baikal seal. So it's most commonly related to the Arctic seal, but it is the only known freshwater seal in the world. All of the other ones might come into fresh waters, but will mainly live in sea and ocean.
Aww.
But this one only lives here. So the question is, how did it get there?
Oh.
Oh.
Right. I'm going to have to do some researching after this.
Oh, Oscar.
I know. So
A little nerper.
I was trying to get my head around it. Some people believe that it could have been connected to the ocean, but it's, as I said, over 1,000 kilometers to the nearest like saltwater body. So
See, I would say, could someone have accidentally, is it like an invasive species? But like you said, no other seal does that.
Yeah. There's over 100,000 of them living in this lake.
Maybe it just
if
rolls.
somebody
wild.
accidentally picked some up and then took them there, then they've been there a long time.
I'm going to have to do some research after this.
Oh, please do. I'm still a bit boggled.
That's
that
great.
that is absolutely wild.
Aliens is aliens. I'm calling it.
We might have to do a bit of a case study on that one at some point.
Oof.
Well, speaking on aliens, we come to the next talking point.
Oh,
Wow.
The lake is actually used for astronomy. Would you believe it? So, because it's so deep, it means that really deep inside of it, you can build a neutrino telescope. So
This is similar to what they've built underground in other places, right?
yeah.
Yes.
So what they've done here is they've just built it really deep because I had to write down some of the science for myself here because I had to get my head around it. But the way they work is neutrinos. They come from space, or at least there's some in space, and we need a way to detect them. But the problem is they react very weakly with other particles. So the only way we can detect them is when the neutrino collides with the nucleus of an atom, and a small bit of radiation comes off. And that radiation is very detectable as a very faint blue light. But we can't see that if the sun's present. That's the problem.
Right.
We can't detect it because of the sun.
Right.
But if you go far down enough, no sun.
Yeah, so you build this telescope really, in this case, below lots of water, over 1,000 kilometers of water. Then, when the neutrino collides with something, because this telescope has an active field of around 1 square kilometer, that's how much it sees of water. It detects any neutrinos that may hit an atom and cause a little bit of that blue radiation to come off.
Oh, I love that. Putting a telescope deep underwater, and apparently that's a good idea. But wow.
Somebody had to think about that.
Yeah. I like how you said, there's some in space. And I'm like, yeah, if you just hold up your hand right now, there's like hundreds of billions of them flying through your hand right now. At any given time, you're just permeated by just an absolute wealth of neutrinos. But they're just so unbelievably tiny that they fly through your atoms and don't even touch the sides. So they go through you without even touching what makes you you.
So they just kind of go through the empty space that we all have.
Yeah.
Because I kind of forget we are all mostly void.
Yeah.
They've got like a negligible mass, which means it does have some mass, but it's so small. And it's got no charge, so it just rarely interacts with anything other than every once in a while it bumps into something.
Yeah.
So
Wild.
Absolutely mental.
Just telescopes in space, on top of mountains, at the bottom of the ocean. Well,
How
the
could
bottom of
one
the
lake hold so much?
That's great. I like that.
there have been some papers published using the information from Bedunt, or the Baikal Deep Underwater Neutrino Telescope.
Wouldn't.
Such as the searches for relic dark matter in the sun, and high energy muons, and neutrinos. So, yeah.
Relic dark matter?
Searches for relic dark matter within the sun.
That sounds like one of the coolest things you could be researching.
Oh, I know.
I mean, anything dark matter related is just... Oh.
Yeah.
I kind of really want to go to this lake one day, just because there's so much. I bet there's not loads happening there. It is a really large lake as well, but I kind of want to see it and go, you know what? 1,000 meters below me right now is a big telescope that sees space things. So
crazy. Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah, neutrinos are a weird one. I always like to talk about them if they come up, but the tip of the iceberg is my knowledge, and there's so much about them that you'd have to be a particle physicist to understand, but they always blow my mind, and I love that.
Mm. And I do have one more little bit.
Is it a mystery?
Ooh.
The lake does have its own cryptid.
What?
Go on.
It's called the Lasud Khan, which roughly translates to the Water Dragon Master.
Oh.
Yes.
Supposedly, it resembles a giant sturgeon with armored plates and long claws. And it's interesting because there are petroglyphs sort of around the area that depict strange creatures that we can't know if it is or isn't them, but it is very interesting that they have this mythology around this area.
It's the fact that everything's endemic as well. So
yeah, like I could totally believe there being some sort of weird cryptid like life form here.
Who put the seals there?
Early Chinese explorers to the lake, which they called the North Sea, reported seeing these beasts, which they called gods of the lake or dragonfishes.
Oh
man.
So, yeah, there's just so much going on beneath the surface.
I like that they called it a sea. They were like, oh yeah, the North Sea, of course.
Yeah, but it's
huge.
It's not as big as the other lakes, but it's still pretty big.
Yeah.
Like I was trying to work it out. I was getting my ruler out and using things. I think there is an island in that lake which is roughly the size of Manchester, if not a little bigger.
Oh, wow.
Boy.
Okay, right now it's in my head how big it is. Okay.
Yeah. Well, go check it out. I mean, maybe I can get a sponsorship deal. We can do holiday packages.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
That's it.
Phenomenauts on tour. We go to the Lake Baikal and we go and see the weird stuff.
Yeah. Phenomenauts on tour.
It's got science, it's got mysteries, it's got seals.
It has.
That was a real good piece, Oscar. That was.
Oh, I know.
It's satiated.
I did start looking at some other Great Lakes, but I thought, you know what? If I'm going to do anything on them, I'll have to do it another day.
Yeah. No, I mean that was fantastic. This is the story of Baikal.
So is everyone ready for me to shift us on to the next segment?
Yeah,
Sure.
Let's do it.
All right. On to our next and final segment for the evening. Stuff that we like.
Yay.
And basically what we do with this is it's one of the newest additions to the podcast. So I say that it's probably been going a while now, right. But we just obviously we used to have we've obviously in more recent history we've had quite a few spaces between recording sessions, but even while we're doing it more regularly, we thought it'd be nice to just take a minute towards the end of each episode to just kind of talk about something we've enjoyed between recording.
Yeah.
Do we want to spin the wheel for this?
I gotta edit so many wheels into this episode.
I mean, we can just volunteer, but I've noticed none of the three of us very rarely. Go on, Amber.
I'll do it. You know what I like?
Bite that bullet.
I like my cat. That's what I like. I've got two wee bairns, little Ivy,
precious babies,
little Ivy and little Hazel. Ivy, the more mischievous of the sisters, and Hazel, she's very polite and she's very well mannered. Ivy likes to chase a worm on a string. And Hazel likes to attack baubles and run around with them in her mouth.
Oh, not to be dramatic, but I would die for those.
And they're both asleep behind me, and I love them.
Oh,
precious
babies.
I've said my piece. That's all I have.
All right. Does anyone Oscar? Do you mind if I go next?
You go next, D.
Okay. Well, I thought I'd my thing I've liked between recording this time is, well, kind of going to say us. Like, I kind of like that, throughout lockdown we've had our little evenings of just watching content and having chats and doing that really regularly has been kind of really nice. It's just a nice little sense of normality. It's something to look forward to, and I was very grateful for that. So well, I am very grateful for that, and will continue to be grateful for that. So honestly, thank you, you two.
Oh, well, thank you, Dee, and thank you, Oscar.
Thank you. Oh, thank you, Amber and D. Oh, precious. Is it my turn now?
Go.
It is your turn, Oscar. You go right on ahead.
I enjoy coffee. That's what I'm going to talk about today, because you know what? It's kept me going throughout hard times and good times. It's always there, nice and warm. Wakes me up in the morning, and it smells nice while I'm making it.
Yeah.
Fun fact, listeners.
I'm going to give back to that little bean.
Yeah. Yeah, coffee is one of those ones where it was introduced and that's it. It's become a staple.
I can attest to Oscar's love of coffee, having lived with him for a while. And Jesus Christ, Oscar, I don't know how you do it. It is both fascinating and terrifying that you are just ceaselessly fueled by, well, coffee.
Well, during lockdown, I have had to cut back a little bit because I find 2 cups is the right amount for me per day. I'll have one just as I wake up, which will get me into the at least I can talk and function barely. And then the second one's a treat. I'll sit down while I'm doing something, and I'll have the second one as an aperitif. When I go to 3, that's when we're hitting the danger threshold. That's when
the jitters.
The jitters, I'm sitting there, I'm slightly vibrating at a higher frequency that you'd probably need an underwater telescope to see.
You've gone a little bit past pure vibing.
But, 2 cups of coffee a day, and you know what? I feel better for it.
Yeah.
Well, unless anyone else has got anything more to say, I do think that's it from us this week, folks.
Well, what I've got to say before you say any of that is, welcome back, us.
Welcome back, us. Indeed. It is good to be back.
It is.
It is. And thank you very much, audience, for tuning in once again. Any topic suggestions or feedback you want to drop us a comment or an email on phenomenautspodcast@gmail.com. We'd love that. Can even give you shout outs if you want, because we'll do shout outs. And I guess on that note, it's peace out, folks, and we'll see you again in 2 weeks' time.
Bye now.
Bye.
Bye.